it's the crap goth. My name is Pixie and welcome to my channel of randomness where you never know what you're gonna get. Today is all about my stay in the psychiatric unit and what it was like from a personal experience. This is my experience only. I'm not going to name which unit I was in. This might be different for everybody, so don't take what I say as gospel as what it's going to be like for someone else's stay. It may be a different unit or the same one or whatever. This is my personal experience. Did I enjoy it? No, it was absolutely frigging awful. But if you want to find out what happened, stay tuned. And don't forget, please do subscribe, like, share, tick that little bell icon so you know when a new video goes live, because it could literally be anything. My head's a mess, my channel's not exactly organised, and it's literally random, like me. So yeah, stick around if you want to find out more. And I'm in my pyjamas, sorry, because I'm too lazy to get dressed. Right, okay, so I make no secret that I am mental. Yes, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. It's more widely accepted than it used to be, which is fantastic. There is still a stigma there. So I am schizophrenic, I suffer from extreme anxiety, I have panic attacks, anxiety attacks, I can't be out of the house on my own, I have to have somebody with me at all times. I can get in my car and drive from one place to another if someone's meeting me, so I'm alright with that aspect of things. But I struggle to be like on my own. It's not like an agoraphobia thing, I don't think. If I'm on my own and if someone was to like walk me to a field and then walk off and leave me, I'd be like, oh my god, and everything would come rushing in. So potentially, I don't know. But anyway, the bottom thing is that I am basically really messed up in the head for lots of various reasons. And I ended up recently going to stay in a psychiatric unit. Now, I'm not going to say whereabouts, which one it is, but it's in the East Midlands, which is where I live in the UK. And what is it like? So I got asked so many questions and I wrote them all down, and then I lost my bloody book because that's how organised I actually am. So this is my personal experience of what it was like in this particular facility. Now, like I said in the beginning of the intro, that you can't take this as gospel. Like, my experience might be completely different for you or somebody you know. The protocols, the procedures are different for every single patient, because obviously you're all in there for different reasons. So just because I had a really shit experience, I didn't think it was right for me. It definitely was not the place that I needed to be. It definitely wasn't. I did go in as a voluntary patient, but just because you're voluntary does not mean that you have as many rights as you think you do. And that's why I'm doing this video, just to let you know what to expect or what happened to me personally. Like I said, do not take this as gospel, as this is what's going to happen to you guys. This is my personal account only. And this is how it went down. So basically, I got to the point where I was like, right, I don't want to be alive anymore. Which is, yes, it's pretty serious. I wasn't looking for sympathy. I wasn't looking for someone to come in and swoop down and rescue me. I just thought, I'm just going to... Basically, I didn't want to be here. I just wanted... I'm not going to go into details how or anything else, but I wanted to be with my son, KORI, who passed away last year. It all got too much. On the surface, I'm a YouTuber, and yeah, I'm sometimes things can be funny with my husband. I'll go out and have a laugh, I'll mess around, I'll do unboxing for both videos, both channels, because I do his channel as well, which is Crack in the Box, which I'll link up to the description of this video. So I try and keep things light-hearted. I do unboxings, tour reviews, I rant sometimes, which is what I'm going to have today, is a rant. And other times it's just random family vlog stuff. But like everybody on this planet, everybody to some extent has got some form of mental health issue. I don't care what it is, like everybody has got it. And if you haven't, you don't realise it or you're lying to yourself, because when all of us are pretty fucked up in some way or another. So anyway, at this point of time, I decided that I would voluntarily go into a psychiatric unit because I didn't feel safe in myself. I didn't trust myself to not do something to harm myself. So in that aspect, yes, it was the right place for me to be. But my circumstances were so different to most of the other people who were in there for other psychiatric reasons. I mean, you can go in there because of bipolar, because you've got suicidal thoughts, because of schizophrenia, or literally, it can be a myriad. You don't know what everybody's suffering from in there. So you've got to be aware that some people literally have no clue what they are doing. So I saw violence in there. The police turned up whilst I was there. There were people kicking off, screaming, storming bedrooms. Oh my God, there was just so much going on. But you can't really say anything and do anything, because these people are in there because they're mentally ill. So like the majority of them have no bloody clue what on earth they're doing. And under normal circumstances, they probably wouldn't be anything like that in real life. So you can't judge people or have a go at people or really stand up to them because you don't know what their personal circumstances are. And that is really frigging hard. But going right back to the beginning, I go in as a voluntary patient, and this is what happened on admission, which I hated. So people go into hospital for all various reasons. Like I said, you go in, some people are sectioned, some people go in voluntary, some people are taken in by the police. I've been taken in by the police and everything before. This is years and years ago. It's been many, many years since I've been in hospital. On this occasion, I went in as a voluntary patient. My husband drove me. Nurses met us at the entrance, and I was taken into a holding room. 2 seconds. Sorry about that, my dogs just came storming in the living room. Yeah, so basically I was taking it into what's called the de-escalation room, which is like a living room. I presume it's for when people are kicking off, and there's no furniture you can really chuck around apart from like soft play furniture, so you can't hurt yourself. There's a mattress on the floor, and it's just basically an empty room. I think they just kind of put you in there and lock the door if you're going like on one. So I went in there, and a really nice nurse met me. She was alternative, which was quite kind of cool, because obviously I'm alternative too. And I got my bags with me, and so she said, right, we're going to have to go through your bags and check your bags, which obviously is standard procedure in case you're carrying weapons or anything which can hurt other people. I got trainers on. I was allowed to keep my laces in my trainers and things like that, which was kind of cool. So yeah, I went in this room, and sorry, I've got an itchy nose with piercings. I went in this room, and then 2 blokes came in the room with me, and sat down in front of me and said, right, you need to go through your bags. And I'd got a suitcase and 2 bags, because I basically had been given like 2 hours notice that I was going to hospital. My CPN, which is my community psychiatric nurse, rang me and said, right, we've got a place you're going in tonight. And it was like, oh my God, I was not prepared and not ready, emotionally, physically, anything. I've not packed anything. So I just grabbed stuff and chucked them into carry bags and my suitcase, and off I went. So we started emptying my bags out, and basically these 2 men were sat in front of me on these sofas, and I was sat on the floor, and I was having to go through everything. Now they have a checklist, so I was having to count how many pairs of knickers I've got, and how many bras, and how many socks. So in a way, although they have to do it because anything which is personal loss they actually do compensate for, so if anything goes missing they'll pay you back for it or whatever, but obviously they need to know what you're bringing in. So yeah, there's the whole like degrading thing of having to count out my underwear in front of these men, and then like put them on a chair. That was, but I'm not exactly like a snowflake, and it's like, fair enough, I know you've got to do these things. But then I had my stuff with me, and they wouldn't let me have half of it. And we're talking like I grabbed like a sachet of coffee. So like from living in hospital all the time and living in parent accommodation, and sometimes at the drop of a hat, KORI would need hospital admissions. My son would need hospital admissions. So we'd literally grab things off of the food shelf, stick them in a bag, because we didn't know when we'd get to eat or drink. And I, at that point, was quite mentally ill, so I wasn't eating properly. But I did have travel sachets of coffee, just the little like 3-in-1s, the coffee, milk, sugar, powder, little sachets. So I grabbed a box of those and chucked them in. And that got confiscated, and basically loads of stuff was confiscated off me, and I was only allowed to take certain things to my bed space, which was, I was taken into a dormitory. So there was, I think there was five bed spaces in the dormitory that I was in, which was separated with, I think, probably about a 6-foot wall, so there's a gap on the top, so it's more, it's like a big room which is like divided into sections. You have a curtain at one end, a bed, a wardrobe which has no door or anything on it, and then obviously a big space at the top, so they're not fully enclosed rooms. And you've got a window that had, say, bars on the window, but it's like a grill, so you can see through it if you push your face up against it, but from a distance it's just a metal grill, so you can't even open any windows or whatever, or damage yourself on glass and things like that. So I got taken through to my bed space, and I was shown what, where I was going to be sleeping. The lady there actually came through and introduced herself, the lady who was staying in the bed next to me. I'm not going to name any names, but she was really, really friendly and really lovely straight away. And then there was a younger girl who was opposite me, and she was a bit alternative, and she said hi as well. So obviously that was a really nice experience. Then came the shit experience, which I thought was absolutely fucking awful, actually. So bear in mind, I'd gone in there heavily distressed because my child died and I was feeling as though I didn't want to be here, and I was worried about what I was going to do to myself. So I was scared, I was vulnerable. I just had to count out my underwear and everything I owned in front of these two men who were writing everything down on lists, which was quite frankly degrading, even though I knew it had to be done. Then half my stuff was taken off me with no explanation whatsoever and put in this locker. And then I was shown into a bed space. And then I was left for a while, so I thought, fair enough, I'll just, you know, I will start to unpack my clothes and stuff, which is fair enough. Then this nurse came and she said, right, I need blood off you. And now, I don't have a needle phobia. I used to have a really severe one. So anyone who has a severe needle phobia would have been faced not with, we have to do this for this reason. I wasn't given any reason. It was just, I need to take blood off you. And she turned up with a tray at my bed space full of syringes. And I was like, right, okay. Now, bear in mind, I hadn't drunk or eaten anything for several days before my admission because I was really, really unwell. So I was severely dehydrated. And she said to me, right, I'm taking blood from your hands. I'm like, you can't take blood from my hands. You won't get blood from my hands there. Obviously, I'm dehydrated anyway, so she's not going to manage to do it. She says, nobody can ever get blood from my hands. I always have it taken from here. Like, obviously, my elbow creases. So I've got really good veins there. I've got tattoos, but you can see, like, I've always had blood tests there. And she wasn't having any of it. She wouldn't listen to me at all. So several attempts from both hands, digging a needle around in the back of my hands, which hurt a lot. And she wasn't kind of like holding it. She was like on both hands. I ended up with massive bruising through my tattoos. And she didn't manage to get any blood in the end anyway. But she wouldn't listen to me at all. Like I know my body. So that was the first thing which really upset me and pissed me off. Okay, anyway, so after that, you know, I was like, fair enough, because I mean, like I said, I've been in hospital before, I do know the procedures. They sometimes have to take blood from you to check whether or not you have any allergies or whatever the situation is with your body, if they need to give you particular meds. But she didn't explain that to me, and they don't always explain things to you, they just do it, which is, when you're in a vulnerable state, it's just, it really should be explained to you properly. And then she said, okay, we need to do an ECG on you, which I've had done before. I've had loads of ECGs. I've seen KORI have them. They're just the little sticky pads that go usually on your inner wrists, top of your feet, or your ankles or whatever. A couple here, a couple underneath your boobs, basically, or, you know, wherever. And yeah, so I was like, that's fine. I've had those done before. So she took me into this little medical room that had got basically a phlebotomy chair, which I don't know why she just couldn't take blood in there, but she didn't. And she's like, right, strip down. And I'm like, what do you mean strip? She's like, take everything off. I'm like, no. She's like, take everything off. And like, I'd got my bra on, I'd got a jumper on and a top on and stuff, and I think I've got trousers on. And I'm like, but bear in mind, I've had loads and loads across the years. I've had them. I have them all the time. Every time I have an asthma attack, the ambulance crew comes out to the house. They do these ECGs, and I've got sports bras on, like little sports bras. Look, they're not even like wired or anything else, so they can just move it to one side. But she insisted I strip down to my pants. Well, I had my trousers on, but I took everything off. So, and I didn't know this woman. I was like, I'm not doing it, and she was like, you have to. She says, you have to do it. So I took my arms out of my bra and I said, no. And I said, I'm covering myself up. And she was insistent. I lay back on the chair with my arms down my side, completely exposed. And then another nurse just walked in. No knocking on the door. She just walked straight in. And I sat up and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I says, no, I'm covering myself up. And anyway, she tried to do this ECG, but it turns out the machine was broken, so she couldn't do it anyway. And she did actually apologise after, because she saw that I was distressed. And I was like, now, I'm not a prude. Like, literally, I have got naked and run around places before. But in that kind of situation when I felt vulnerable and I felt exposed and I didn't know this person at all, you're in a medical room and someone telling you to take your clothes off for something that I've never had to take my clothes off before, I didn't think that was right. She didn't explain that it'd be easier or why. It was just very forthright and do this and do this and do this. So that really got my back up, and I was just like, you can piss off as well. I'm not doing it. Like, I'm 44 years old and I'm not going to be told. And this is probably, I think, where it comes in, again, in a medical setting. This is not everywhere, but some people get very desensitized to their jobs. And especially when they're like the older nurses, they tend to, I think, because they do it all the time, they sometimes forget that they're dealing with human beings. And some of them are in a very, very delicate position, and they just go into auto drive because sometimes you have to switch off emotionally, otherwise you take it home with you. And maybe she was just having a bad day. Maybe she didn't think. Maybe she's just so used to doing it that it becomes second nature. But sometimes it pisses me off that wherever you go in situations, It can be school teachers who are being shitheads to the children. Like, it really annoys me. Why are you in this kind of profession if you can't just think about each person? But yeah, she was actually a really nice nurse. She turned out to be very nice and very friendly, and she did apologise to me. But that initial being searched, taken, having things confiscated, having bloods taken from the back of my hand, which hurt like fuck, even though I told her not to do it, and she couldn't do it anyway. She refused it in my crease of my arm. And then obviously being taken and told to strip was horrible. And that all happened in the space of the first hour of being there. It wasn't like it was spaced out or explained to me. I wasn't given a tour of anywhere at all, because I arrived like after 7 o'clock at night. So they just basically said, toilets are there, here's your bed. And then I was left to it. I said I was going to get a tour, but that didn't happen. It was actually one of the other patients who showed me the next day where everything was. And then it was awful, basically. The people in there were pretty nice. The people I shared the dorm with were lovely. Like, they were proper nice people. But I wouldn't eat their food. Like, I wouldn't eat food at all there. Like, I was in the headspace where, like, I'd got voices telling me that the food was poison and I couldn't eat it. So I didn't eat a meal there for 5 days. But then on the last day, one of the cleaners, and then my roommate went through to like the fridge where they keep sandwiches, and they brought me a sandwich and just put it on the bed, and I walked off. Because if somebody hands me something which is sealed and I know it's safe, I can eat it. But I couldn't willingly go into their dining room and eat with a load of people. I just couldn't do it. So I didn't eat anything for 5 days there properly. And yeah, I just found the whole thing to be very, very daunting, and things weren't explained, and procedures weren't explained. You were just kind of expected to know exactly what you're doing and take the meds that they're handing you without any explanation. And I'm like, no. So basically, the majority of the staff there were very friendly. There was a couple of the night staff who were off and bitchy, and there was one of the, and like I say, I'm not naming names because I am very, very well aware of the fact as well that there is a huge like deficit really in NHS staff. Like, the government are just being wankers when it comes to funding for the NHS, and they'll rather put things into second homes, and I can get into all this political stuff because it really pisses me off. But there isn't enough funding in the NHS, so I don't think there was enough staff on. But I also think, like, again, that some of the medical staff who work there do desensitise themselves to the situation that other people are in. So I'm not in because I'm gone completely batshit crazy and I'm on one, I'm kicking off, shouting, screaming, smashing up the place, chucking stuff around, locking myself in, which is what some of the patients there were doing. Which, by the way, is really fucking distressing when you're sat on your bed, minding your own business, and someone comes storming into where you're sleeping, and they're on one, and you don't know what the fuck's wrong with them. You can't approach them because you don't know if they're dangerous, if they're going to turn around and start flailing out and hitting you. Because, like, I wouldn't stand for any shit off anybody. If someone came at me, I would tackle them. I would. But in a situation like that, it's not as though someone's starting to fight with you on the street. Like, these people are legitimately mentally ill. And a lot of them are quite young. Like, I don't want to go up against somebody because it's not their fault. But at the same time, like, especially when you've been drugged, which I was, until my husband sent me my rights as an inpatient, like a voluntary inpatient, I don't have to take the drugs that they are offering me. Which is another thing I'll get onto in a second. But they did actually drug me. I think it was the second night I was in there. And somebody stormed in the room, and I was incapable of defending myself. Had they decided to turn against me and kick off, I wouldn't have been able to do fuck all about it because I was off my tits on some antipsychotic that they'd given me. Which I didn't actually need because I'm a grieving mum. I just needed someone to listen to, someone to talk to me and counsel me or just whatever. And again, that is another... This is a ranty video, I'm sorry. So, basically, I was only there for 5 days, which is literally no time at all in the grand scheme of things, because I've been in psych units for weeks on end, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people have been in for months on end, especially if you get sectioned. So, as a voluntary patient, what do you have rights-wise? So, you have the right to leave at any point you want. Bullshit, you do not. You have the right to refuse medicines. Yes, I did find that was the case, but you have to plead your case, and quite often they get quite shitty with you. So I went in there not taking any antipsychotics because I don't like medicines. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke anything. I'm not straight edge, but I don't like putting chemicals in my body unless I absolutely have to. But I do take diazepam willingly when I need it. So I have that as a PRN, which is basically a as and when. It's not diagnosed every single day, 3 times a day. It's just a as and when I need it. Same as an antipsychotic, which I'm trying to think what it's called now because I still haven't had it yet, but can't think what it's called. Risperidone. So risperidone has just been prescribed to me as a PRN as and when I need it. If I start to get up there and I can't cope, my husband will give me a dose of this stuff. It's just a droplet on my tongue. So basically, I went into this meeting with loads of people on laptops and doctors and psychiatrists and God knows who else, and they don't really speak that much to you apart from spending 10 minutes with you just trying to assess the situation. They're all sat there tapping away. And they just decided that I was on diazepam 3 times a day and I needed to take risperidone once, twice a day, whatever it was. I think it was once a day. And I was like, no, I don't. But they don't listen to you. They do what they think's best. So for the first day or so, I was drugged, which I was not a fan of. Fucking awful. Just you can't think straight. Your head's foggy as fuck, which is how I feel a lot of these psychiatric units are. They will drug you so that you are not a problem to them, because it's easier if you're in bed asleep. You know, you're not going to cause trouble if you can't kick off if you're sedated. And that's personally how I feel things are. Might not be the case for all places, but I definitely do feel that in every single admission that I have had in a psychiatric unit, which has been a fair few over the years, that they would rather drug you than talk to you, take the time out to find out why you're in there, counsel you, whatever. There is no fucking services like that at all. It is wank and stupid. Anyway, there were some lovely members of staff in there, and funny. Like, so I'm not saying everybody's a dickhead and you don't get any attention. It's not even an attention thing. That's kind of the wrong thing to say. They're like, so I think I would have benefited from going in hospital and having someone available at least once a day to talk to, which apparently coming out of hospital, I was told that's exactly what I should have had. I should have had a named nurse. And if I had one, nobody ever told me who it was. And I should have had 1 hour a day of being able to talk to somebody about how I was feeling, about what was going on, and things like that. And that was never offered, not once. And I have to honestly say, on all the admissions I've had to the same place, that has never been the case ever. Ever. I've been put somewhere and just left, which is exactly what happened this time. So, confiscated items are in the place that I was in the East Midlands. I was not allowed my coffee. Nobody told me why. I had to go. Now, bear in mind, I was in a situation with my psych stuff in my head where I can't ask for food and drink. And it's documented, it's well documented on my notes that I go into a period of not eating and not drinking, and I have to be able to have access to something so I don't have to ask for it, because it's like going against the voices in my head. So anyway, they locked away this coffee. Nobody told me why. And when I went to ask for the key for my locker, because everyone's got their own locker, which is a positive thing, so you can put things in there so they don't get stolen or whatever. I asked them why I couldn't have my coffee, and they said, well, it's been taken off you for a reason, and they were shitty and didn't explain why at all. Took somebody else to say caffeine is classed as a drug. It's a tiny fucking sachet of coffee with milk and sugar in it. The packet's like this big, but it's a drug, so you're not allowed to have it, like, because you might overdose on caffeine. I don't usually drink caffeine anyway, but I was like, fair enough, okay, I understand that one, that's fine. But then it's like, hang on a second, I'm not allowed packets. I was allowed to take one with me to my bedroom, because they do have actually facilities. So they have facilities for a kitchen that has like this like, what are they called? You know, there's like big metal things on the wall where you pull a tap and scalding hot water comes out of it. Basically, you can go in that. Now, there's all these people mental stuff in. You can easily just go and hold your hands underneath this scalding tap of water. But I'm not allowed a sachet of coffee because it's got caffeine. But then someone else who was in my dorm was allowed an e-cig. Now, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Or like, you're allowed something electronic that's fucking flammable or whatever. It's basically a gas chamber or whatever. I don't know, you can puncture it or whatever. You say you're allowed an e-cig in your room, but I'm not allowed a sachet of coffee. Like, things like that are just so fucking weird. And also, everybody is on different levels. So I was on a level 3, which is you get checked every 15 minutes and you're not allowed to leave the building without an escort and all that kind of stuff. Some people are on level 1, which is, I've been on level 1s before, which is you have to be within touching distance of somebody else. Even when you're going for a shit, they have to be able to touch you. Like, so that's usually people who are suicidal and things like that. I was a level 3, but yeah, so all people in dormitories are all on different levels. So my thing is like, what if I was completely delusional and just wanted to set fire to everything? Which, by the way, somebody has set fire to the dorm rooms when I've been in there before. They've snuck a lighter in and set fire to their curtains and everything fucking went up. What if you've got someone who is suicidal and I haven't got my trainers on and I've left my laces in my trainers? They could easily go and try and do something. Or they've got combustible materials such as an e-cig just sitting there on the bed, and somebody decides to go and stab it with something sharp that they found. I don't know. It seems to be like one rule for one person, one rule for the other. Surely it would make more sense to put everybody on a level 1 or level 3 all in the same place, so you're all at the same risk. It's just, it absolutely fucking baffles me. Like, it's just weird. But basically, I could rant on for the next hour, but it was scary. It's a scary place. Don't go in these places unless you absolutely have to. I actually went against advice from my CPN, who wanted me to go to the crisis house, which is basically a low-key house which is staffed by like support members. But if you're in any way feeling not safe, you can't go there. You've got to be safe, which is why I went into hospital. But as a grieving parent who could not cope with the loss of their child, to be put into a hospital where I had all that horrible intervention at the beginning, and then it was left to my own devices and just having to listen to people scream and shout and kick off and cry and literally be manic and psychotic and stuff, and having people wrangling into your room and going through your stuff, and which was horrible. And then when I got upset about it at night time, I said to a nurse I couldn't sleep. And the first thing is, oh, do you want some drugs for that? Like, they will drug you like that. But ask for someone for help or to talk to him, and no one's available. And I said to this one nurse, I was crying one night, and I was like, I couldn't cope. There were people screaming and shouting, and this was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep, and I was scared, and it was like, and she just said, it's a hospital, darling, what do you expect? And just fucking walked off. I'm like, wow, really? Like, I'm not in here because I'm a danger to anybody. I'm just here because I'm really, really, really sad and upset, and I've not been able to have any form of counselling for, we're coming up to 8 months now since my little boy passed away. For the first 6 months, you're not allowed anything because it's a natural grieving process. So nobody will touch you with a barge pole. I'm supposed to be having psychology again, which is what I had before Corey passed away, but he won't touch you because I'm not mentally stable. Who is mentally stable after losing their child? Like, this is so fucking weird. The system is so weird, and I get so pissed off with it. It's just so mental, literally. But anyway, I'm going to end this video because I'm going to rant for the next fucking 10 hours about basically hospital was not right for me. So I disagree with the way that they do things upon you going in. So they could be a lot nicer about things. They could do things in a manner which didn't make you feel violated and embarrassed and things. I know they've got a job to do, and some things are explained to you, so that's okay. Please listen, be aware. They're going to take things off you, such as lighters. If you're a smoker, you will be taken out. This is the place that I was in. If you're a smoker, which I'm not, you will be allowed fag breaks, cigarette breaks, whatever you want to call them. They will take you out. A member of staff will take you out, but you have to hand your lighters back in, and they have your cigarettes. You are not allowed to take things like coffee. You're not allowed to freely have that. That has to be locked away. Obviously, any medicines you have will be locked away, taken off you. One of the biggest things that I ended up really, really getting upset with them, and it took my husband like 2 days of ringing up and saying, you have to give her inhalers. I have quite severe asthma, which is not managed. I have a nebulizer, which is in this gift bag here, which is where I keep everything. I have to have this to hand because I need nebulizers all the time. I have asthma attacks all the time. I am on 3 different sets of inhalers. I have to have an inhaler with me at all times. And they confiscated my inhalers, knowing full well that I have to have them on me. I even carry a card in my purse that says that I am steroid inhaler dependent and I have to have my inhalers with me at all times. I showed them this card. It's a medical card, and they still took them off me. Now, bear in mind, they said to me, if you have an asthma attack, you just need to come and find one of us. If I have a fucking asthma attack, I'm going to be on the floor. I'm not going to be able to walk around corridors trying to find a member of staff who might be busy with other people, because quite often the time I went out into the corridor when I plucked up the courage to actually leave my bed to find that the office was locked up, and there's no one to be seen because they're out taking people on cigarette breaks, or they're taking them off to the shop, which they've got there where they sell e-cigs and everything, or they're busy with other people. What if I'm having an asthma attack? And it's like, and then, so that gave me anxiety because I'd not got my inhalers with me, which is basically something I need to survive. But it took my husband, like I said, about 2 days of ringing up going, you need to give her inhalers. People are allowed e-cigs, but I'm not allowed an inhaler. What the fuck? But basically, the whole experience was awful. I lasted 5 days. They let me out eventually, but that took my CPN coming into a meeting. The doctor was actually really nice and thanked me for staying, like it was a fucking option. They will take loads of stuff off you if they deem it as being inappropriate, dangerous, anything like that. Obviously, nothing sharp like razors. You have to go and ask them for them. Stuff like that. It's a lot of it's common sense. You are allowed stuff like colouring books, colouring pens and things. They will take Sharpie pens off you. I was not allowed my Sharpie pens. I don't know why. Maybe they've got alcohol in them, or you can sniff them and get high. I don't fucking know. You can, it's random stuff. But so yeah, I was allowed normal felt tip pens. I wasn't allowed pencil sharpeners and stuff, obviously, because they've got a blade in them. Just, I don't know, the rules are just one for one person, one for another. So random. But yeah, it was all in all a horrible experience that I would not recommend to anybody unless you absolutely have to go into hospital. Don't fucking do it. They don't have the resources to give you any counselling. They don't have the resources to sit and talk to you most of the time. In passing, they have to check you every 15 minutes or whatever it is on their little phone thing that they have to check you up on. Most of the time, it's a case of flicking the curtain, making sure you're still alive, and they just walk off. So you don't have any interaction with anybody anyway. It was horrible. The staff, majority of the staff were absolutely lovely, and they were really funny, and and in passing they'll make jokes. And one man was from London, one of the members of staff was from London, and obviously John's from London, so we ended up getting talking, and he spent about 10 minutes chatting away, and he was funny and he was nice. The majority of the people were nice, but I think they're short-staffed. Would I recommend going in? No. Is there rules in place? Yes. Is it fucking degrading and horrible and scary? Yes, yes, yes. It's noisy, it's screaming, it's shouting, it's... See these prisons on telly when people are banging on the walls and screaming and crying, and it's all of that. It's fucking horrible, basically. And I don't ever want to go back in again. I'm supposed to have had a care plan when I came out. That hasn't been filled in, so hopefully I don't go wacky. I need to go back in because I don't want to. But every single hospital is different. Everybody's experiences is different. You don't have as many rights as you think you do. This is the big one as well. You go in as a voluntary inpatient. They tell you can leave at any point. They are fucking lying. You can't. Because you can walk in there and they can tell you all this bullshit. And then if you try and leave, like I've done on several occasions, they will then stand by those doors and say, if you try and leave and we don't think you're ready, we will put a section on you. And then if you're sectioned, you've got no chance of leaving, and then your levels go up. So yeah, the majority of the time, not saying this for every time, but the majority of the time, if you want to leave and they don't want you to leave, or they, like I was there for 2 days, I'm like, I can't handle this, this is not right for me, I want to go home. I wasn't allowed, and had I tried to leave, I would have been sectioned. So make sure you know your rules, and your honestly, like, your rights are a huge thing, but just because it says it on paper does not mean it's going to happen. Don't go in unless you need to. They are fucking awful, understaffed places. That's it then. Right, end of video, because this has turned out to be like almost an hour long, and I was like, no, I didn't want to make this long video, but it's not nice. It's just not a nice place. And yeah, I'm home now, so I'm home. I'm not on any meds. I'm seeing a CPN, community psychiatric nurse, weekly. I do have a lovely lady who is like a support worker, and she takes me to the cemetery sometimes. If I can't leave the house, she'll come and talk to me. She's great here. It wasn't a very nice experience. It was awful. John and Osora were allowed to visit. It was kind of supervised because the nurse was sat outside the room. And they were allowed an hour's visit, but you had to book that in the family room. Yeah, it's just not nice. And at the end of it, Osora was clinging on to me and begging me not to go, and crying and sobbing. And I was taken away by nurses and they had to leave. And it was just awful. Yeah, it wasn't nice at all. Wasn't a positive experience. I didn't get anything out of it whatsoever apart from being away from my family, which turned out to be the worst decision ever. I wasn't any safer in there than I was at home. I was probably more unsafe in hospital because I could have been attacked at any point. The staff do what they can. They're mostly nice enough. I think the resources are shit. They don't have enough staff, definitely not. They don't have enough funding to put in place like counselling and stuff like that, which would be great to have therapy groups. Some people which are long term are offered therapy groups. I was never offered a therapy group ever, or anything like that. So I did join a little kind of eco meeting once to ask about designing some kind of like eco garden. I was invited to it, so I did it. That was about 15-20 minutes long, but the rest of the time I was sat on my bed colouring in and being on Facebook, because you're allowed your phones in there, by the way. You're allowed chargers, but your charger has to be this big. And it's mounted on the wall up here. So I'd taken in a USB charged lamp, which I got from TikTok, and I used that as a phone rest, so my cable was able to charge my phone. But yeah, there's rules for different places. They're not nice places to be. It is dangerous. It can be horrible. It is like prison. You are drugged against your will. And yeah, I don't recommend. Like 2 out of 10, do not recommend. If your life is at imminent risk and you are going to harm yourself, then yes, it is probably the place for you, because they'll just drug the shit out of you so you can't actually do anything. But for any other reason, no. Just don't fucking do it. They're awful places. And that's it, really. There we go. Bit of a ranty video. Just a bit of... it's just what happened to me. You might have had a completely different experience and love places and feel really great going in, and that's great. But for me, I am never wanted to go in one of them places again. They're shit. They're horrible. They're awful. No, never. The only good thing about it was the fact that it was there was a Pokestop nearby, so I could play Pokemon when I was sat on my bed for hours on my own, being completely just like withdrawn and stuttering. Ugh. Anyway, that's it really. There we go. Psych video all done. Don't do it. Not a hotel. Not a fun place to be. And yeah, you do meet some nice people in there, but at the end of the day, everyone's in there for the same reason. Like, you're all a little bit batshit. And so yeah, just be careful. Don't go giving out your phone numbers to people either, because you don't know people's background histories. So, you know, make friendships. That's great. But when you leave, leave. Unless you really connect with somebody. Don't give out any personal details. That's it really. Job done. I'm going to take this little nutty head of mine. I'm going to poddle off. Hope you enjoyed the video. Just me getting on my soapbox, having a fucking bitch and moan, basically. And yeah, so anyway, comment down below if you've been in a psych unit. What was your experience? What can be improved within the medical healthcare system? What can the government do to put more money into the NHS, which is my biggest piss-off point, because I don't think that they're doing anywhere near as much as they can be doing. And don't privatise it, which is what they're trying to do, because they're Tory knobheads. Anyway, I shall see you all again soon. Thank you for listening to my little rant in my pyjamas. And yeah, if you like what you see or hear or whatever, please do make sure you're still subscribed. That was great. Or subscribed if you're not already subscribed. And lots of random nuttiness. I'm going to go now because I'm just bollocksing, talking shit. And my swearing's coming out now because I'm getting really het up. Sorry. See you later. Bye. Don't go in hospital unless you need to.